What are you talking about mainly over the past week or two? What's the stuff that's captured your attention, your eyes the most?
Man, I talk about everything on my show. I mean, obviously, I think the biggest topic for me has been the Diddy lawsuit. It's the craziest thing that's come out, I think, since Jeffrey Epstein. And it's definitely significant because a lot of the work that I do is talking about or I guess really asking the question is what's happened to Black culture, because this is not the Black culture that I grew up with, and the Diddy lawsuit potentially answers a lot of those questions. So
do you say...
All right, guys, listen, what Candace Owens is doing here and what she's going to end up explaining is using a situation, the current situation that Diddy is facing, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of it, as evidence to explain what happened to the Black culture. If you guys don't know, recently 2 serious civil lawsuits have been brought forward against Diddy. One from Cassie, his ex-girlfriend of 10 years, which he settled in less than 24 hours, literally, where she accuses Diddy of sexual deviance, threats, and physical abuse. It's crazy. The second civil lawsuit is from a producer called Rodney, who over the years allegedly collected hundreds of hours of footage that exposes Diddy's alleged crimes. Diddy allegedly is part of a Hollywood blackmail ring led by Lucien Grange. According to Rodney, allegedly Diddy promised him a Grammy for Producer of the Year if he engaged, check this out, if he engaged in homosexual activity with him. There's also photos proving that Diddy allegedly shot a producer with his son in the studio and it was covered up by the police. How is this linked to the Black culture? I hear you asking. And Candace is basically arguing that Black culture has changed over the years for the worse because there is a concerted agenda from a cabal at the top to corrupt the masses, including the Black community. And this cabal are the ones responsible for handpicking the artists, for blackmailing them in order for them to deliver the moral degeneracy that we are currently witnessing in the music industry today. So Candace Owens goes on to first make a comparison to artists back when she was growing up and artists today like Sexy Red and Cardi B. And she makes a valid point. Who the hell signed Sexy Red? These guys at the top have all the money and talent at their disposal, and they go and sign a woman that, while 9 months pregnant, is twerking on her baby shower. Not to mention her filthy, explicit lyrical content that I unfortunately had to hear some of just to know who the hell she actually is. Candace is saying that whoever signed Sexy Red, they didn't sign her for talent. They signed her because of the filth that she is willing to promote. And most importantly, this is being perpetuated in the Black community. Her argument is that this is being done intentionally, and I absolutely agree with her 100%.
There are like 2 kind of different ways of viewing this. And I feel like you fall more to one side, and then I'll go my side, and then we can kind of see if we can iron out or figure where we are at, I guess, in the middle here. I feel like when you look at the evolution of, when we say like degenerate Black culture or degenerate Black music, I think we're generally talking about like the beginning of hip hop and rap, and then kind of the evolution of that going forward, coming away from like the R&B singers and everybody like in the 50s, 60s, 70s, or whatever, right?
Yeah. But hip hop isn't always filth. But yeah, I get your point.
But that seems like
we're generalizing. Yeah.
It feels like when I look at music, or if I look at music that people create, oftentimes the music is a reflection of their circumstances. And you can see, especially as America and the Black communities became more conscientious maybe of the ghettos that they'd been kind of pushed into, or the policing situations that they'd had to be a part of, or drugs destroying their communities, et cetera, et cetera. And then those people turning to crime, that you also see the music and the art kind of reflect those conditions. And then those pieces of art that get created, especially the music, end up being like worldwide popular. Like the most popular genre of music in the world is like hip hop and rap. So when I look at people pushing certain stuff today, I'm like, okay, well, we got 2 really big, in my opinion, I went to school for music, I don't know if you talk about the saxophone or whatever, so we had 2 really big contributions to the world of music from America. One was jazz, that came basically from the Black community, and then the second was like rap and hip hop. these forms of music become popular, people see that it's popular, they want to get involved. Obviously, the money men, the people on top, they want to kind of continue to push this because it's popular, and everybody around the world consumes it. I feel like there are a lot of market forces at work that kind of perpetuate this and keep this happening. And that feels pretty satisfying to me to explain what's going on. So when we ask, like, why is it a woman twerking with somebody's face on her butt cheeks? Because, well, for whatever reason, that's like what the worldwide culture seems to want to see right now. And then on the other side, it feels like from people, I don't want to just say conservatives, but I would say broadly speaking, I guess I'll say on your side in general, it feels like there's this idea that there's this much more intentional or like malevolent force working behind the scenes.
Yes, there is. And
all right, this is basically making the argument that first, the degeneracy we see today is a natural evolution, meaning it's not essentially being orchestrated from the top. And second, that the degeneracy that we see in the music today is a reflection of the circumstances that people find themselves in. He brings up the racist problems that historically the black community have had with the police. He cites these reasons as more credible as to why the music is so degenerate. And as usual, Destiny is, I'm sorry to say, but wrong. The black community had problems before the civil rights movements, during segregation, and after the civil rights movement, during integration. Conscious rap grew as a response to the target social injustices the black community was facing in the 80s during the crack epidemic era. So Destiny is absolutely wrong. It was this cabal at the top selecting specific artists to push a certain degenerate message in order to destroy the moral fabric of the black community, but also of the rest of the Western world. Not just the black community, the rest of the Western world. Just look at the rap artists in the 80s compared to the 90s. Big difference. Rap groups like Public Enemy, Grandmaster Flash, and Furious 5 and others. This idea that the culture that we have today came about naturally and was not engineered is absolutely rubbish.
I'm going to push back on what you're suggesting here. You're suggesting that this reflects the community, and they're sharing their stories in a way that makes sense. That's completely not true. Okay, WAP does not reflect the circumstances that black people are living in. Singing about your vagina and how hard it's getting pounded is not the circumstance of living in the hood. I come from nothing. It's not that did not make me feel closer to the circumstances that I grew up in. And unfortunately, that's actually what people are telling black Americans. Like, actually, it's working the other way. You're putting something, your eyes and your ears are the windows to the soul, and you're basically, when you celebrate someone, and I'm using Cardi B here as an example because I think people are probably more familiar with her than they are with Sexy Red. When you put someone like that on the Grammys stage, which is, again, a decision being made. When I was growing up, the best, most talented people were on the Grammy stage. It was something you could watch with your family. And we still had poor people. You still had poor people. You still had people that were living in the hood. Okay, we didn't need somebody talking about their vagina in order to feel seen. So what you're doing is you're setting the stage for younger girls who aspire to celebrities to say, okay, well, if I mimic that behavior, I too can become famous. What you're actually doing is you're setting the idols that people are going to look up to, and people are going to think this is what I should aspire to. So it's actually working in the exact opposite way.
Can I ask a question? And that, like,
exactly. Poverty and crime has always existed and will always exist. That's not why people are rapping about their private parts. Come on. That's not why people are rapping about their private parts, guys. This message, which is very much in line with the feminist sexual empowerment movement in the 1970s, is part of an agenda and not a coincidence of circumstances. And it's being deliberately pushed into society. Just look at how degenerate the sexual education has become in schools in the West today. They are now teaching masturbation to 9-year-olds. Candace is 100% right when she says that the purpose of this agenda is to set up the idols for celebrity status and fame for young girls to aspire to and imitate. And this is essentially how you change culture and society. So she's 100% right, guys.
evolution of things. So if we look at like WAP in particular, hasn't it generally been the case that music is always kind of pushing these sexual boundaries? So it might have been Elvis grabbing his crotch and dancing. It might have been Michael Jackson's dancing is incredibly suggestive if you've seen that. It might have been in Woodstock, all the loser hippies talking about love, sex, and rock and roll and drugs. Wouldn't like WAP just be kind of like the next evolution in a long chain of
pushing boundaries is not degenerate.
Destiny, what's wrong with you? Destiny keeps going back to this idea that all this hedonism and degenerate music has somehow evolved naturally and wasn't orchestrated by a cabal with power and an agenda. And where is Destiny getting this idea that pushing boundaries somehow means degeneracy? Huh? You can push boundaries and not be a degenerate.
Okay? And so here's what I'll say to you. Why don't you pull up the lyrics to WAP and read them right now?
Well, I don't. Why would I need to do that?
Oh, it's just Woodstock. We're just pushing the boundaries a little bit.
Do it, Destiny. Do it.
You probably have never even read the lyrics to WAP.
Yeah.
I think I did because I think Ben Shapiro had a huge thing about it.
He couldn't have said. You may have seen him reading the sanitized version of WAP, not the one that is not sanitized. Like the sanitized one, which is still bad, that she can perform at the Grammys, is what he read. You should read the lyrics to WAP before you make commentary that it's a reflection of what Black Americans are living through, or it's just somebody that's pushing a boundary. It's not that.
How do you explain the fact that like WAP was like a number one like worldwide hit?
Because what I said to you is that they are artificially creating artists at this point. There's no question. And by the way, the Diddy docs, which I found to be a very compelling point, was that Diddy said to the guy, allegedly, who was the producer, that if he was willing to engage in homosexual behavior with him, that he would get him Producer of the Year Grammy. Okay, so what does that tell you? It means that the entire system is artificial. And by the way, this is something that Kanye said 10 years ago, or however long ago it was, when he took the trophy from Taylor Swift and said, like, this is all fake. This is not even based on merit anymore. And that is my point. The industry is not based on merit. It's not based on capitalism. It is based on selling ideas. So it is, who do we want to artificially make the person that every Black girl will look up to, or who they will aspire to? And
so I can definitely understand that. Like,
honestly, guys, this idea that there's a cabal shouldn't be so difficult to grasp. Think, guys, just think. Hierarchies are everywhere. Your job, company, country, family. There's always someone at the top. It's the same in the music industry. There's a hierarchy within the music industry and among the record labels in the music industry. There are record labels that are more powerful than other record labels, and usually will set the tone for the other labels to imitate and mimic. And she gave a great example of Diddy allegedly promising Rodney, his producer, a Grammy for Best Producer of the Year if he engaged in homosexual activity. She summed it up perfectly when she said, the music industry is not based on merit, it's based on artificial artist selection to push an idea that they want to indoctrinate society with. If the idea is to sexualize young girls, then you artificially select an artist that fits the profile, like Sexy Red, and target a young audience so that these young girls can grow up believing in that idea.
Maybe award shows can be rigged, or people can think different things about, you know, who's being awarded based on merits for the Grammys or something like that. But like WAP was genuinely, do you think it wasn't genuinely a popular song, or do you think that music execs have the ability to manufacture that desire publicly?
the latter. So if you start playing something tons of times on the airways, and the latter, you can definitely make something popular. There are songs that I don't even like that I've heard so much that I know every single lyric to. And I'm like, I don't even know how I know every single lyric to the song, but it's received this many plays. You put it everywhere. You award the person, you invite them to bizarre circumstance. Like, there's absolutely no reason that Cardi B is invited to sit down and ask questions to Joe Biden.
So
in no scenario, unless you are really making an effort to legitimize this person and to make this person aspirational. Again, this is not an insult to Cardi. I actually think that personality-wise, she's got a ton of talent and she's interesting, and I've said great things about her on Love and Hip Hop, and there are elements of her that make her a star. But what I am saying is that a lot of that is manufactured, and I just don't see how anybody, when looking,
don't you think it's entirely?
That is so true. How many times have we heard a song that we initially didn't really like, but due to the amount of times that they played it on the radio or parties, you found yourself liking it? How many times? And she's right when she says, why on God's good green earth would the president of the United States invite a degenerate, I'm sorry to say it, but a degenerate like Cardi B, if not to make this idea that they are trying to promote through her credible and digestible. All right? They want to promote certain ideas and they're using her, to promote these ideas. I'm sorry to say it, but why are they using it? Because they want this message to become more credible and digestible in the public eye. And that's the reason why they're doing it. All right? Why else would the United States president invite someone like Cardi B over? Think about it.
Possible or easily possible. So I feel like there's so many things wrong with this. So one is, why wouldn't competing record labels start pushing talent that's actually popular that people want to hear? I think that would be a big question. The second thing would be, how can we explain the top-down domination of this type of media popularity through all of our reality TV shows, all of our TikTok stuff, all of our YouTube videos, and the music industry? And then how can you explain that all happening worldwide?
Sure.
It feels like that to try to explain this through people that are exercising control on these platforms would require more control than anybody has ever been able to exercise on any platform ever, and they're doing it on a multi-country, multi-stage level.
It's very easy, actually. It's a very basic concept pertaining to governments. They need propaganda. Hollywood is propaganda. You should, for those of you that are watching this live, go listen to the conversation that Joe Rogan had with Cat Williams, where he talked about all of this. And he said, I know you think that you're being entertained. And this is somebody that comes from inside of the industry. And he starts talking about the Diddy stuff, the idea that in order to climb higher, you kind of have to engage in nefarious behavior, and how he was collecting all of this information. He was speaking out about what was happening inside of the industry. And he said, it is twofold. You might be being entertained, but they are making decisions about what will entertain you. And a great circumstance in which he presented that as evidence of that is transgenderism. And he asked hold on.
Okay.
He asked a question which should be answered. He said to Joe Rogan, and he laughed about it. He was like, a guy wears a dress on the red carpet, okay? And then the media tells you how great he wore the dress. And he was like, he said, tell me one situation where he didn't wear the dress wonderfully, when he didn't wear the dress in a way that was amazing. It's because they have all agreed that this is the narrative. And then he talked about the fact that the record execs also own the publications that are saying that something is amazing or something is not amazing. And that is just plain old-fashioned propaganda. So you don't necessarily need to detach what we're talking about from your concept of what governments are interested in. It's always propaganda.
So
exactly. Propaganda. The Nazi regime is a good example how governments can use propaganda to indoctrinate the masses. Propaganda comes out of agendas. And this cabal at the top definitely has an agenda. When you look at the main record labels, there aren't many. Seriously, there's like 4 of them that are the main ones. You've got Sony Music, you've got EMI, you've got Universal, and I think there's another one, Warner. Yeah. You've got, this is it, that's it. And they control pretty much all of the music that the masses consume. Pretty much. It's propaganda, guys. That's what it is.
So I understand Cat Williams has said this. I also understand that Cat Williams was at one point in his life addicted to crack, and I think he's famous for losing a fight to a high school kid. I think this benched his career for a while.
Oh my God. Trying to insult the man and discredit him. This is a way of discrediting Cat Williams. That's basically the tactic that Destiny is using here. He's trying to discredit him so he insults him. All right? It's just a tactic.
Can insult him, but it doesn't.
I'm not insulting him. I'm just saying that
2 + 2 = 4. 2 + 2 = 4.
I'm not insulting him. I'm just saying that to lean into his testimony, who also we would both acknowledge has a lot to gain by giving incredulous testimony like this, saying oh my God, these crazy things are happening, right? I don't know if I would just say, well, right, he does. The fact that you're talking about him and you're citing him and you know it, right? If anybody else was saying
that's true.
a similar thing, we'd say, well, okay, they're saying this because they have something to gain for it, right? He knows that this is going to be a hot take, and he knows that it's going to go viral if he says it, and he knows he's going to get a lot of eyes on him for it. So I think it's good to call that into question. I think the issue that I have when it comes to the the accusation that everything is some top-down level propaganda is, I feel like the conversation shifts away from the important stuff, which is, why are people attracted to this type of stuff? Why do people vibe with it so much? Why are we replacing traditional, better forms of media, or more thought-provoking, I don't know what you would call it, forms of media, with this type of stuff? Instead of having conversations about the culture and the society, it's all fixated on some weird top-down plot to like control media consumption.
I think you just like to be contrarian, because I don't understand the point that
That's all he is. Candace, that's all he is a contrarian.
you're making here. Like, of course.
Wait, hold on, wait. Let me restate that. I'm sorry. The point I'm making is very clear. If I was going to, I've got a almost 13-year-old son in a few days. Okay. If I was to see that he's consuming media, my go-to would be like, hey, Nathan, why are you watching this? This is crazy. We need to look at something else. I need to, like, who are your friends? What are you looking at online? Like, we need to change our media consumption habits because this isn't working. I would never think, like, I think that the school is involved in disseminating media towards him and there's no way that we can change this. Because I feel like on your side of the story, people are basically like, we're hopeless. There's nothing we can do.
No, it's not hopeless, but if you want to be able to do something about something, you need to be able to acknowledge the something, right? I mean,
what was the thing that
you
we
can't
do about
make it
it?
like it's a conspiracy. It's like, no, when I graduated high school, there wasn't a single trans kid. Now you've got like more than 50% of kids that think that they're other. That is obviously propaganda. Clearly, it's just not possible that you didn't exist. Maybe there was one person, and then all of a sudden everyone is.
Sure, I think it's okay to
that can only happen. That can only happen through propaganda, right?
Maybe,
They're
yeah,
suddenly being told it's an option. They're kids, right? You want to experiment. You want to be different. You're looking for a way to stand out, and so you hold on. And in the classrooms, you've got teachers that are reinforcing this narrative that is, yes, top down, right? It's like Hollywood in lockstep with the Department of Education that is making these options available. If it was natural, when I graduated high school, there were gay kids. There were lesbian kids. There wasn't a ton of them. It wasn't an identity. That's another thing. The identity thing is very new.
Interesting thing. I agree.
Yeah,
for sure.
and so it shows you who are they emulating, who are they copying when they do this stuff, because it's an option. It's just being presented to you. It's obviously not natural if it didn't exist naturally. And so
Done. Destiny's done. Destiny is done out here. If it's not propaganda, why are most of these kids identifying themselves as all kinds of genders? Why this drastic change? I remember I never saw none of this on my day. And now today, all of a sudden, in the space of 10 years, we have seen this drastic change amongst high school and university pupils. What else apart from propaganda could have achieved this? Destiny, you need to be quiet, my guy. Seriously. You don't have a leg to stand on. Like I said before, just because you can say 100 words in 5 seconds doesn't mean you are intellectually sound or even intelligent. All right? Okay, guys, listen. I hope you enjoyed this reaction. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time. All right? Peace.